Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Matt with LandSayGo.com, and it is day 4 of spoilers. Today we're gonna start off strong with a rare in Storev Dev Karen Lich. It's a pretty powerful looking card at only 4 mana for a 5/4 with trample, and every time he's hitting a player or planeswalker, I like how they've been adding that text to all these new cards, going on combat damage, not only to a player but also a planeswalker. You get to return a card to your hand. Oh boy, that's crazy amount of value. I don't know if he's going to find a deck right away, but I know someone somewhere is going to want a card like that. Next we have Lazotep Reaver. That is a pretty simple card. It's a common, but at only 2 mana with some playable stats at 1/2, he's got a useful ETB trigger, which is Amass 1. Now, normally that doesn't seem too exciting, but if you're playing in an Amass deck, which is going to depend very heavily on getting a critical amount of Amass triggers, this is one of those cards that's it's going to work out perfectly for you. Yeah, the 1/2 body for 2 mana, not that impressive, but it's working perfectly with your game plan on low curve, so you can start pumping out those army tokens real fast. Next we have Lazotep Plating, which is an uncommon instant that says Amass 1, and you and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn. We saw this a little while back with a card called Heroic Intervention, only that card had Indestructible on it. This is just you and permanents you control. Don't discount that you part of that clause at the bottom there. Sometimes something like Settle the Wreckage or a discard spell like Thought Erasure, this can help you protect your hand when you have a critical piece that you don't want to have to discard. Plus, it's got a nice little Amass 1 trigger on it. Next is Krenko. That is a legendary creature, a goblin, and when he attacks, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on him and then make X 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Now, here's the spicy little part of this wording where X is its power. It's not how many 1/1 counters are in it, it's its power. So if you're buffing him with something like Colossus, you're going to get in for a big amount of damage and make a ton of goblins. Now, yeah, you have to use your pump spell a little bit before damage, so your opponent will probably get to know what its real power is when blocks come around, but getting that many 1/1 red goblin creature tokens just for doing that, that's crazy amounts of value. I am definitely going to be looking for a deck to play this card in. Something a little more interesting is God Pharaoh's statue. Now that is our first big impact artifact that's no colors. We did have Bolas' Citadel a little while back, and that one looks crazy. I can't wait to get to that one, but this one is just a colorless for 6 mana. Spells your opponent's cast cost 2 more to cast. Now, let me say, in all of Magic's history, a sentence like that is extraordinarily rare. It's very common to see non-creature spells cost more to cast, but just saying spells your opponent's cast cost 2 more to cast is a big deal. I think there's only one other card out there that does it. And then you've got, at the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses 1 life, which is a really, it's a way to close a game if you are playing the kind of heavy taxes or prison deck that this card looks like it wants to go into. Next is Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord, another rare planeswalker. This one is going to give your creatures and your planeswalkers during your turn lifelink. And then he's got a plus that deals 1 damage to a player planeswalker. Now remember, because of that first cause, it's going to have lifelink, so it'll gain you 1 life too. And then he also has the ability to return something from your graveyard to the battlefield. He's a good card. Look, for 4 mana, you get the ability to return something with 4 CMC from your graveyard to the battlefield right off the bat. But that's not even accounting for how many times you can +2 him. And 6 loyalty is not going to be that easy to get rid of, especially if you're playing like black-white control. You got a lot of ways to remove creatures, and Sorin is going to be a great way to end a game. I also want to very briefly mention another card, Sorin's Thirst, and not because of the text on it, you know, dealing 2 damage and gaining 2 life. Not that exciting when there's a card like Moment of Craving out there, but look at the art. This is the first time we're seeing Sorin and Nahiri fighting each other, and I am pretty excited to where the story is going to lead with that. And while we're talking about them fighting together, look at this one. single combat. This is the classical Cataclysm effect where each player chooses one of each type of permanent, sacrifices the rest, excluding lands of course. We don't do mass land destruction in Standard anymore. But also another art of Sorin and Nahiri duking it out, and the flavor text really getting it down that these two hate each other and they don't care what else is going on. Now, as far as the text goes, I mean, that's solid. I don't see a deck that's going to love that right away. Usually with control decks, you just want to straight up creature wipe, but it could be that we're going to see some decks that have a strong mix of both planeswalkers and creatures, and that's what this card is going to be best against. Next, we have Nahiri, Storm of Stone. She's not looking too happy, and she is going to give your creatures first strike and make your equip abilities a little bit cheaper. Plus, as we know, Nahiri loves to mess with tapped creatures. So this one's going to be able to take those out as well. It's very powerful, at least in limited. I'm not so sure what we're going to see as far as equipment goes in Constructed, so she might not really see any play there, but it's a neat planeswalker, and I think there's some space to explore there. Next, we have Leyline Prowler. That is, I don't know what this is. It's got Death Touch, it's got Lifelink, it taps for mana, it's a 2/3. I don't know where this guy goes. He looks pretty cool though. He reminds me a bit of Vampire Nighthawk, which was 1 black flying Death Touch Lifelink. Pretty neat utility. He had a place in some decks, but this one I'm shrugging my shoulders and I'm going, where am I gonna put this one? I'll probably play it in limited if I ever see it, but outside of that, I don't know. And I'm gonna end today off with a card that looks pretty exciting, Death Sprout, with the well-known Seb McKinnon art on it. It is an instant and it'll destroy target creature and allow you to ramp a single basic land card. That is a lot of value in a single card. A lot of people have compared this to basically rampant growth plus murder in one card. I agree with that. And those two cards see a lot of play, at least in Commander. So this card has a place. It's got a place somewhere. It might be some kind of Golgari value deck. I'm not sure. 4 mana is a lot to ask for a card that just says destroy. And when you're at turn 4, I don't know if ramping is where that deck's going to be, but there's certainly a place for it somewhere, and I'm excited to see what people come up with. That's all for today with spoilers. Remember to go to landsego.com, check us out. We've got plenty of deck techs, articles. We've got an amazing podcast that I personally recommend, not biased at all though. And join us tomorrow when we break down even more spoilers. See ya.